most common immigration destinations because its immigration program has been around for such a long time. I think almost all of us will have a friend who probably studied there or a friend who probably has moved there, and that is what also sparked the interest in us. So some common reasons would be the education system, the quality of life, work-life balance, and something to touch on for Australia education, especially for parents who are concerned or maybe students who are going on to university, right? You are going to save a lot on your international education if you were to have a PR status. So, for example, if you were an international student, you're probably looking to spend up to a six-figure on your international education. But if you are a PR holder, you spend almost maybe only 10% of that or less. Other than that, of course, education, healthcare benefits. Here it's just giving you an average cost of what it's like to have childbirth. For example, in Singapore, on average, we spend in cash about $8,000 to $10,000. But if you were to have your child in Australia, you only pay very, very little. Again, 10% or less of that. So when it comes to salary, okay, I cannot say that the salary in Australia is super duper high. I'm very sure that in Singapore, a lot of you are earning much more than this, okay? But we can see that it's decent. And it also tallies with a lower cost of living. So I cannot do a very big comparison of countries all over the world, but I can say that the cost of this car, this Toyota of close to 21,000 Australian dollars with no 10 years COE is only the cost of keeping a car in Singapore for maybe 2 years, right? So jumping into how to qualify for this immigration program through skilled migration, okay, firstly, I would like to introduce the 3 visa types that you can possibly end up with. At the end of the day, you can only end up with one, and these are either a direct permanent residency under subclass 189 or 190, or a 5-year provisional visa under subclass 491. Subclass 491 was only introduced in November 2019. It is a 5-year provisional visa that offers you a direct pathway to permanent residency if you live and work in a regional area for 3 years over that 5-year duration. Some criteria that you must meet, okay, before you can be eligible for this program. Firstly, it will be age, right, between 18 to 44. But frankly speaking, being in this industry for 5 over years, if you were to start your application at 44, it is really a little bit too late. The latest that we should really be looking at should be about 43. All right, you have to pass a skills assessment because again, this is skilled migration. So your skill, your occupation is extremely important. And if you are, for example, a software engineer, right, we will need to make sure that you can pass the verification checks and be recognized as a software engineer for Australia immigration purposes. Of course, English, you're going to an English-speaking country, so you must have English proficiency. You have to clear police and medical checks, and of course, the immigration has a points test for you to fulfill with at least 65 points. How do you count these points? It's based on very, very basic human factors, things like your age, language, qualification, working experience. If you have studied in Australia or worked there before, this will be bonus for you. If you are going for a state nomination, it will also be bonus points for you. So just a quick summary on the 3 different visa types again. 189 and 190 are direct permanent residency. 491 is a provisional visa focused on regional areas. And with 3 years of work and stay, you can also convert it to permanent residency. The timeline after your consultation, and if you decide that it's the right time for you to move, we will then prepare your documents for the skills assessment, which will include, of course, your personal documents, education documents, as well as employment references. Depending on all your different kinds of occupations, there will be additional requirements that we must help you to fulfill as well. Then we will lodge your application before receiving an invitation, and then you can go over once you get your PR. Now, one perk of getting the Australia PR is that you also have access to New Zealand. Just to let you know, since August last year, all the way until now, the New Zealand immigration programs have been completely closed. Your student visa, work visa, skilled migration visas, they have been all closed. The only visa that's open for New Zealand right now is the investor visa. You need to invest either 3 million or 10 million New Zealand dollars if you really, really insist on doing a New Zealand migration program. So I guess that's another reason why a lot of people choose to make their entry through Australia as well. Because after all, most of you already have this professional skills. So why not just use it, right? Okay, so we move on to Canada. Just to share with you, okay, very much at the last quarter of 2020, Canada government gave very good news that they will be releasing a quota of 1.2 million PRs to be granted through the skill migration program for this year, next year, and 2023. So it is very good news for all of us. And if you just zoom into the red box, right, 2021, they're looking at 411,000 permanent residencies to be granted. So if we look at the draw, let's just look at January, okay. The number of invitations that were being issued, they had 4 draws altogether. If we add them up, it's probably close to about 10, 12,000. But just now they mentioned 411,000. If we divide it exactly by 12, we are looking at about 30 over 1,000 PRs a month, right? So in January, the quota was not hit at all. So in February, there was the biggest draw ever. If we just compare last year and this year, 27,300 PRs were being issued. I think this is really the first step that brings us closer to meeting the quota for what Canada Immigration has shared. So it is a good time, right? I must say it is a good time to make your entrance into Canada, because I always tell my clients that the barrier of entry to Canada right now, compared to Australia, since we are talking about these two programs, is really considered slightly lower and easier to access if we compare it to Australia. Right, I know that some of our prospects and clients who have visited us might not agree with me, okay, because after all, this is an immigration program. There will still be age requirements, English requirements. So it doesn't work for every single person, but in general, Canada does have a lower barrier of entry. I mean, of course, this is a scenery we can only see on Google if you're in Singapore. As PRs, you also have free education, medical service. Cost of living is comparable to Australia as well. So how are you eligible for the Canada program? Okay, we also look at the same kind of factors: age, education, English, work experience, and if you have family members like siblings, relatives in Canada, it will help you to be eligible for this program. This points test here that we are talking about that you need 67 points for is for the Federal Skilled Worker Program to make you eligible for the main immigration program called the Express Entry Program. So the Express Entry, the name Express Entry is really true. It's really an express pathway to getting your PR if you meet the points requirement that the government is looking for. So the latest Express Entry draw was at 469 points. If later after tallying your score, right, with the points test, you realize that, oh my, you have 469 and above, or somewhere around that range, you are definitely very eligible to get a direct PR, and it will be over in the next 6 to 8 months. So you should calculate your points, right? Whatever you are seeing on the screen right now are the highest possible points that you can get for each component. So, for example, if you are a single applicant, okay, if you are 29 and below, 30 and below, you will be getting the maximum point of 110. After that, all the way to 40, 31 to 40, the points will drop 5 points every single year that you grow older. Once you reach 40, the points will drop 10 points every single year that you grow older. Until late 40s, you get completely no points for your age at all. Alright? So age is something that we cannot save. We are already older than yesterday, right? So there's no better time, to start your application. Right? Education, language proficiency, transferability factors, all these are the maximum possible points that you can get. Okay, so one thing that I must bring your attention to would be English, right? I think that this is a concern for a lot of clients. IELTS English exam, okay? For Canada, for Australia, you must take an English exam for sure. While Australia offers you more options, Canada only gives you IELTS General or CELPIP, CELPIP, which was only introduced in Singapore in January 2021. Right, so it's a very new English test, but it's an alternative option if you really have a, you are really afraid of IELTS exam. Okay, so the engagement process, if you feel it's a good time for you to start your application, then we will have to do the points test for you and education assessment. You have to do your English exam. If your points fall below the selection criteria for express entry, that's where you might need some help from the different provinces in Canada. A very common question that clients have is, how does the provincial nomination program work, right? So if we just do a very simple comparison, most of the time when I ask my clients, okay, where are you looking to go to when you go to Canada? 9 out of 10 says Vancouver. So that's what the population is like. 9 out of 10 people are choosing Vancouver. When you look at provincial nominations, we want to focus on the less populated areas, maybe places that you never heard about, right? Like Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador. We are looking at provinces like these who want to boost their provinces, who want more international talent, professions, different kinds of professions to increase their population, to improve the economy. So sometimes we cannot pick and choose so much, but it's always best to have one foot into the country first and bring your other foot in. Then we just stand outside and wait for Vancouver to select us, which is almost really never going to happen, right? So again, once you receive your invitation, just complete the rest of the procedure, police and medical clearance, and then you will be able to get a PR. All right, this is what a permanent residency confirmation looks like, right? You will get this in Singapore when you got your visa grant before you move to Canada. From this day onwards, you will have all the benefits of a PR. And one thing that really pushes some people to apply is the very fast track pathway that Canada offers to citizenship. So just 3 years of residency in Canada will allow you to apply for a Canadian passport, which is one of the strongest in the world. With no investments, right? No property investments whatsoever, just through your pure talent and your loyal residency, you are able to get a Canadian passport. Okay, so we will be taking the questions online, but before we end off this session, I just want to address something that has always been popping out. I think almost every single day we receive this question. Firstly, it is about the travel ban, or rather, if you get this PR, right, can you even go to Canada? Can you even go to Australia? So if we just only rely on government source information, we only go to government websites for information. We rather not rely on third parties. So either Australia or Canada, either way, you will realize that as a permanent resident, you definitely have a travel exemption. So the other thing is that this application is not going to be approved tomorrow if you apply today. It's going to take minimally 1 year. So 1 year later, I'm pretty sure things will change. Maybe not back to normal, but it starts to get better. So you can utilize your PR as soon as you can. And also just keep in mind that PRs are valid for 5 years. In normal times, right, you also wouldn't just drop your job and go. You will have to make some preparation. So minimally, it might take you 1 to 2 years before you really make your move. So keep all these in consideration when you are deciding if now is a good time to apply. I personally felt that during the lockdown period was the best time to apply, because now when things start to open up slowly, clients who have gotten their visa grants are already making their plans to move and to utilize their PRs. Okay, so with that, we are going to end the online session. And if you didn't manage to submit your questions to us on the live session, you can always send us a personal message on Facebook. You can always drop us a DM on Instagram. You can also drop us a message on LinkedIn, or you can also call us or visit our website to drop an inquiry for us. So thank you very much for your time. I wish all of you a very wonderful year ahead, and still remember to take care of yourselves during this COVID period. Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep it. I need Jamie. Please come on. I was holding my own mobile lor. But IG is okay. But our Facebook Live always got problems with that. Thank you, Adeline.